Section 378 of the Indian Penal Code defines theft. It is a very person knows, he thinks that what is necessity of discussing the provisions of Section 378 again and again. If you read this section repeatedly, you will be fundamentally clear. What it says, first you should remember, theft is an offense against property. This is offense against movable property. And this offense is only for taking possession. Ownership is immaterial. There must be a dishonest intention. And with the intention of taking, somebody moves. That's sufficient. What it says, whoever intending to take dishonestly any movable property, first there should be an intention of taking movable property dishonestly from whom? Out of the possession of any person. Intention of taking movable property dishonestly out of the possession of any person without that person's consent, moves that property in order of such taking. Then that will be treated as theft. Is said to commit theft. The 5 explanations are also very important. A thing so long as it is attached to the earth, not being movable property. If a property is so long it is attached to the earth, it will not be treated as movable property. And it cannot be subject of theft. But it becomes capable of being the subject of theft. When it becomes capable of being subject of, when as soon as it is severed from the earth. As soon as that thing is severed from the earth, that becomes the capable of the subject of theft. Expansion 2. A moving affected by the same act which affects the severance may be a theft. If an act by which a thing which is attached to the earth, that is severed, may be theft. Explanation 3 says, a person is said to cause a thing to move. When a person is said to cause a thing to move by removing an obstacle which prevents it from moving or by separating. If a particular movable property is kept somewhere and there is an obstacle that has been prevented it from moving, if somebody separates that obstacle, then and thereby the movement is, his intention is to take that movable property dishonestly, that will be theft. Explanation 4, a person who by any means causes an animal to move, is said to move that animal and to move everything which in consequence of the motion so caused is moved by that animal. If anything is on that animal, by moving that animal, if any other thing is there in the animal, that thereby it is moved. Explanation 5. The consent mentioned in the definition, that is without consent means there may be consent. If there is consent, may be either express consent or implied consent, and may be given either by any person in possession. That such consent may be given by the person in possession, or any person having for that purpose authority. Purpose authority means possession. For possession, if somebody has either express or implied. So those in section 378, that appears to be very simple definition. Sometimes it creates confusion. Because, so I put a question to you, suppose X entered into the land of another with the intention to cut a tree from that land and to commit theft of that tree. So as soon as that tree was cut, and the tree fell on the ground, hearing the falling sound of that tree, this owner of that land woke up and came. Then X left the tree and fled away. Sometimes somebody say, if a question is put to authorities, what of offense is committed, X committed. Sometimes a person remains confused, that is attempt to theft. Some says No, it is a trespass, similar trespass. But here it is a theft because the illustration, a thing moving affected by the same act which affects the severance may be theft. Because illustration A will make you clear. A cut down a tree on Z's ground with intention of dishonestly taking the tree out of Z's possession without Z's consent. Cuts down a tree. Here, as soon A has severed the tree in order to such taking, he has committed the theft simply as because if by the same act the severance takes place and thereby movement takes place, intention of taking. The illustration being a puts a bait for dogs in his pocket, puts a bait, some food material inside his pocket, and thus induces its dog to follow by by keeping that bait inside the pocket. A induces its dog to follow him. Here, if his intention be dishonestly to take the dog out of their possession, that is, if the intention was the intention be dishonest to take the dog out of their possession without their consent, he has committed theft. As soon as dog has begun to follow, as soon as dog has begun to follow A, he has committed theft. A meets a bullock carrying a box of treasure. Box of treasure is there that bullock was carrying. He drives the bullock in a certain direction. Drives the bullock. That is, that bullock was carrying a box of treasure. He drives that bullock in order that he may dishonestly take the treasure. As soon as the bullock begins to simply bully, no, he has not taken the treasure, but as soon as the bullock moves, he has committed theft of the treasure. So you may confuse because with intention of movement express, that treasure box which that bullock was carrying, thereby that treasure box moved. A being Z's servant and entrusted by Z with the care of Z's plate. Some plate here, that is a valuable thing. A being Z's servant and entrusted by Z with the care of Z's plate. Dishonestly runs away with the plate. Dishonestly runs away without Z's consent, has committed theft. A Z going on a journey entrusts his plate to A, the keeper of a warehouse. The keeper of a warehouse, plate was entrusted. Till Z shall return, Z entrusted that plate to A, who was the manager of a, or who was the keeper of a warehouse. A carried the plate to a goldsmith and sells it. Here, the plate was not in Z's possession because that was not Z's possession. Here, theft is not committed. It may be treated as criminal breach of trust. But in the previous illustration, A being Z's servant and entrusted by Z with the care only keep the for a certain period, care. You are entrusted Z's plate runs away with his plate. That shows that there is intention of taking. A finds a ring belonging to Z on a table in the house which Z occupied. In the Z's house, there was a table. A found a ring which was on Z's table, in the table of that house. Here, the ring is in Z's possession. Even if that ring was on the table of Z's, the table kept in the house of Z, so that will be treated as if that ring was under the Z's possession. And if he dishonestly removes it, if A dishonestly removes that ring, A commits theft. A finds a ring lying on the high road. Now, A finds a ring lying on the high road, but not in possession of any person. When a ring was found, which was lying on a high road, it was not in possession of any person. A, by taking it, doesn't commit theft, but he may commit, though he may commit the criminal misappropriation because without taking any step to find out the real owner appropriates. If that will be misappropriation. A sees a ring belonging to Z lying on a table in Z's house. Z's house. Not venturing to misappropriate the ring immediately. A found there was a ring on Z's table, not venturing to take that ring immediately for fear of search and detection. A hides the ring in a place where it is highly improbable that it will even be found by that. He hides that ring in such a place. It will be not possible on the part of A to find it out. That what purpose? He hides that ring with intention of taking that ring subsequently, later, from that hiding place and selling it when the loss is forgotten. Here, A at the time of first moving the ring commits theft. You may not be confused so long the ring has not been taken from the house of that person, their house. That he has not committed. No. As soon as he has moved that ring with intention of taking, he commits theft. A delivers his watch. This is very interesting. A delivers his watch to Z, a jeweler, to be regulated. Z carries it to his shop. Z took that watch to his shop for the purpose of repairing. A not owning to the jewelry any debt for which the jewelry might lawfully detain the watch. A was not any due. He was not in due of any amount to Z, and for which the jeweler may detain that watch. But thereafter, A enters into that watch shop and forcibly takes that watch from Z's hand and carries it away. Here, A, though he may have committed the trespass assault may be a criminal trespass assault, but he has not committed the offense of theft because the jail has no authority to retain that watch. But in other example is there, other illustration, if he owes money, suppose if he owes money to that jeweler, in fact, and the jeweler had retained that watch till the money is paid, and A forcibly takes that watch from Z, here theft is committed. What it says? If A owes money to Z for repairing the watch, A had given that watch to Z for repair. A owes money to Z for repair charge of the watch, and Z has retained the watch lawfully as a security for the debt. He has retained the watch lawfully for security for getting the repair charge, and A takes the watch out of Z's possession with the intention of depriving of Z of property as a security for his debt. He commits theft inasmuch as he takes it decommissioned. Again, if A having pawned his watch, pawned that watch to Z, takes it out of Z's possession without Z's consent, not having paid the debt, what he borrowed on the watch, he commits theft, though the watch is his own property, because that was in possession of Z, and Z has possessed that property as a security for payment of certain money. A takes an article belonging to Z out of Z's possession without Z's consent, with the intention of keeping it until he obtains money from Z as a reward for restoration of A took his property of Z and retained it with an intention until some reward is paid, some money is given to him, would not return that article. Here A takes dishonestly, he has therefore committed theft. A being on friendly terms with Z. A and Z were in friendly terms. A entered into the library of Z and took a book without Z's consent, with thinking, with an intention that after reading that book, he will again return. That here it is probable that A may have conceived, probably it is there. A might have thought that there was a consent, implied consent of Z for taking that book. So here he has not committed theft. A asked charity from Z's wife. This is also, he asked charity from Z's wife. Charity much for beg any food, material or clothes from Z's wife. A was aware that the food and the articles which Z's wife gave to him, that did not belong to her, but it belonged to her husband. So Z's wife is also, because here theft will not be applicable, because Here it is probable that A may conceive that, or he may think that Z's wife is authorized to give away arms. If this was A's impression, if this was impression, he has not committed theft. Sometimes this illustration, that is, oh, A is the paramour of Z's wife. She gives a valuable property which A knows to belonging to her husband. Paramour, and that is of Z's wife. Z's wife, that is the wife of Z, gave some valuable thing to A, who is her paramour, knowing that A was aware that property belonged to her husband, and she had no authority, and to be such property as she also had no authority from Z to give. If he takes that property dishonestly, he commits theft. Then A, in good faith, believing property belonging to Z to be A's property. A believes that a property is in Z's possession, believes that that property belongs to him, takes that property out of his possession. Here, as A does not take dishonestly, he doesn't commit theft. Sometimes somebody's motorcycle is parked somewhere. X believing in that is a motorcycle, that is confused. He applied the key and unlocked, and also that is started. The engine started and carried the motorcycle. Here that will not be treated as theft because he had no intention of taking that property, that mobile property motorcycle from the possession of somebody dishonestly with intention of taking and doing that property. So that will not be theft. Section 379 provides punishment for theft. What it provides? Whoever commits theft shall be punished with imprisonment for either death for a term which may extend to 3 years or with fine with both. Then Section 380, theft in a dwelling house. What is not only dwelling house may also include vessel, includes any tent where property is kept. So Section 380 is applicable when theft takes place from a dwelling house. What is it? Whoever commits theft in any building will be treated as dwelling house. Commit theft in building, tent, or vessel. Which building, tent, or vessel used as a human dwelling or used for the custody of property. That building, tent, or vessel is used for human dwelling or custody of property. Then theft is committed from that building. That is a serious offense that is punishable, which may extend to 7 years. Shall be punished with imprisonment for either death for a term which may extend to 7 years and shall also be liable to fine. Section 381, that is theft by clerk or servant. If somebody is working somewhere, some other person as a clerk or servant, and he commits theft of the property of his master, then that is punishable under Section 381. What it says? Whoever being a clerk or servant, a person, whoever being either a clerk or servant, or being employed in the capacity of a clerk or servant, either actually if a person is a clerk or servant or is employed in the clerk or servant, commits theft in respect of any property, commits theft in respect of any property, in the possession of his master or employer, from the other property, possession of the master or employer, and he being a clerk or servant, or employed somewhere, or is being employed in the capacity of a clerk or servant, then maybe temporary or for 1 day, or clerk or servant, he commits theft on the property of his master or employer, shall be punished with imprisonment by the restraint for a term which may extend to 7 years and shall be liable to fine. Section 382 says, theft after preparation made for causing death, hurt, or restraint in order to the committing of the theft. Only after preparation. If somebody has made preparation, what for? For committing theft. What type of preparation? That person has prepared to cause hurt or death or wrongful restraint to any person for committing theft. That is punishable under Section 382. Whoever commits theft, first theft is committed, having made preparation for causing death, hurt or restraint, or fear of death or hurt or restraint. Theft is committed by a person who has already prepared himself to cause death, hurt, or wrongful intent, or to cause fear of death, hurt, or wrongful intent to any person in order to the committing of subset, for the commission of subset, or in order to the effecting of his escape, not only for the committing of theft, in order to for effecting his escape after the commission of theft, or in order to the retaining of the property, was made prepared, who was made, who was that is, after having made preparation, a person having made preparation for causing death, hurt, or distress, for wrongful distress, or having made who commit theft, having made preparation or hurt or to distress to any person in order to the commission of such theft, or in order to the effecting after theft, or in order to committing theft, even after he has made preparation for causing hurt, wrongful distress, or any death to any person while retaining the property of theft, shall be punished with rigorous imprisonment for a term which makes from 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. Section 383, extortion. What is extortion? Extortion means intentionally putting any person in fear of any injury to that person or any other person, and thereby inducing that person, dishonestly inducing that person. So put, the person who has been put in fear of injury to deliver to any person, including to that person, any person, any property, both or valuable security, any property, valuable security, or anything signed or sealed which may be converted into a value, any property, valuable security, or anything signed and sealed which may be converted to a valuable security, commits them. What is valuable security? Section 34. If you will go those provisions of section 34, what is valuable security? Valuable security is a document or property document whereby right is created, extinguished, extended, etc. So now, whoever intentionally puts any person in fear of any injury, any injury, whoever intentionally puts any person, whoever intention is there, puts any person in fear of any injury to whom? To that person or to any other. Whoever puts any person. Fear of any injury to whom? To that person or any person. And thereby dishonestly induces the person so put in fear. Thereby dishonestly induces the person so put in fear to deliver to any person, any property, any it is very important, to deliver not only to any person, even the third person, to deliver any person, any property, or a valuable security. If valuable security, in fact, such a valuable security is not there, or to deliver any valuable security, or anything which signed or sealed, which can be converted, which may be converted into a valuable security, commits extortion. You should understand the difference between theft and extortion. In extortion, there is the intention putting somebody in fear of what? Any type of injury to any person, or to that person or any other person, and thereby induces the person so put in fear to deliver any property to that person or any other person, so that our very valuable security, or to sign and say, or to or to deliver anything signed or sealed which may be converted into a valuable security, is said to commit extortion. Illustration: A threatens to publish defamatory libel. What is libel? Defamation in writing. In visible form is called libel. Oral defamation is called slander. A threatens to publish a defamatory libel concerning Z. unless Z gives money to him. Here, he does induce Z to give him money. He has committed extortion. He threatens Z that he will keep Z's child in wrongful confinement unless Z will sign. Simply threatening it to be treated as extortion. He threatens Z that he will keep, not keeping, he will keep Z's child in wrongful confinement unless Z will sign and deliver to A promissory note binding Z to pay certain money to him, certain money to A. Signs it, delivers the note. Then A signs that Z to pay certain monies to A. Signs and delivery note. He has committed this extortion. He threatens to send clubmen to plow up to Z's field unless Z will sign and deliver to be a bond binding Z under a penalty to deliver certain produce to B. He threatens that he will send clubmen inside, some gundas, to plow Z's land, Z's field, unless Z will sign and deliver to B, not to him, also to B, a bond binding Z under a penalty to deliver certain produce to B, and thereby induces Z to sign and delivers the one. Simply inducement, not signing. That will be treated as extortion. He has committed extortion. A by putting Z in fear of grievous hurt. Grievous, any injury, it may be simple hurt, grievous hurt. A by putting Z in fear of grievous hurt, dishonestly induces Z to sign or affix his seal to a blank paper. Dishonestly, you sign and put your seal on a blank paper and deliver it to A. Z signs and delivers the paper to A. Here, as the paper so signed may be converted into, simply it may be converted into a valuable security. He has committed. Simply on a blank paper, he took the signature of somebody. If somebody takes the signature or seal of somebody, by putting that person in fear of injury, then that will be treated because that paper on which there is a signature of somebody, that may be converted into a valuable security. Section 384 provides punishment for extortion. Whoever commits extortion shall be punished with imprisonment for either distance for a term which may extend to 3 years, or with fine, or with both. Putting person in fear of injury in order to commit extortion. Extortion has not been committed, but whoever in order to the commission of extortion puts any fear or attempts to put any person in fear, puts any person in fear or attempts to put any person in any injury, shall be in order to committing extortion, shall be punished with imprisonment or either death for a term which may extend 2 years or with fine. 386. Extortion by putting a person in fear of death or grievous hurt. Whoever commits extortion by putting a person in fear of instant death or instant grievous hurt, that what punishment is more. What it says, whoever commits extortion by putting any person in fear, not property is not taken, but simply inducing that person to deliver that property. Whoever commits extortion by putting any person in fear of death or even or grievous hurt to that person or to any other shall be punished with imprisonment for either duration for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. Taken or not taken also. 387. Putting person in fear of death or grievous hurt in order to commit extortion. Whoever in order to the commission of extortion puts or attempts to put any person in fear of death or grievous hurt to that person or to any other shall be punished with imprisonment for either duration for a term which may extend to 7 years and shall be liable. Extortion by threat of accusation of offence punishable with death or imprisonment life. Whoever commits extortion by putting any person in fear of accusation against the person. Commits extortion by putting a person a fear of making accusation of any person, if any, or any other, either to that person or any other, of having committed or attempt to commit an offense punishable death. Accusation that he has committed or attempt to commit an offense punishable death, or with imprisonment for life, or with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 10 years. That is, commits extortion by putting a person in fear of accusation of offense which is punishable up to 10 years, or having attempted to induce any other person to commit such offense. Even putting that person in fear commits extortion and inducing that person to commit such offenses, which may extend, and that is, which shall be punished with imprisonment for either description or for a term which may extend to 10 years. And shall also be liable to fine if the accusation of offense, putting that commits extortion by putting a person in fear of accusation of committing an offense on section 377 IPC, that is punishable with imprisonment for life. 389, putting person in fear of accusation of offense in order to commit extortion. Not extortion has been committed, but in order to committing extortion, for the purpose of committing. Whoever in order to the committing of extortion puts or attempts to put any person in fear of an accusation, puts or attempts to put any person in fear of accusation against that person or any other, of having committed or attempted to commit an offense punishable death, imprisonment for life, or imprisonment for a term which may extend 10 years, shall be punished with imprisonment for either descent for a term which may extend to 10 years, and shall also be liable to fine. And if the offense be punishable, that is in order to committing the extortion. Sometimes it creates conflict, but here extortion is there, but for the purpose of committing extortion, some fear is there, and shall also be liable to fine, and if the offense be punishable under section 377, that is with imprisonment for life. Most of the time, you get a robbery. Unless you understand robbery, you cannot. You will also be robbery and dokaiti. Robbery is aggravated committed by 5 or more persons conjointly. That is dokaiti. So you should. These are the 4 offenses. Offenses of against property. These offenses of the same family: theft, extortion, robbery, dokaiti. What is it? Robbery. First, section 396. In all robbery, there is either theft or extortion. First, you should know. In every robbery, there is either theft or extortion. When theft becomes robbery and when extortion becomes, you should know. Theft becomes robbery if at the time of committing theft, or in order to commit of the theft, or while for commission of theft, or while committing theft. That is for the purpose of committing theft, or while committing theft, is in the process of committing theft, or while escaping with the property, carrying out the property obtained by theft. The offender for that end, or just 3 things: either hurt, wrongful restraint, instant death, or instant wrongful restraint. Voluntarily causes or attempts to cause to any person death, hurt, or wrongful. Voluntary causes or attempts to cause any person death, hurt, or wrongful restraint, or wrongful restraint, or fear of instant death, instant hurt, or instant wrongful restraint. That is, theft becomes robbery. What do you say? Theft is robbery. When theft is robbery, if in order to the committing of theft, for the purpose of committing theft, or in committing the theft, that means while in the process of committing theft, in commit theft, or in carrying away or attempting to carry away property obtained by theft, either carrying away or attempting to carry away property obtained by theft, the offender for that, these words are very important. The offender for that end voluntarily causes or attempt to cause to any person, voluntary causes or attempt to cause any person death, then hurt or wrongful restraint, or fear of instant death, instant hurt, instant wrongful state, then that becomes robbery. So what? When theft becomes robbery. In every robbery is either theft or extortion. Theft becomes robbery when, in order to committing theft, in at the time of committing theft, or while carrying out or attempting to carrying away the property obtained by theft, the offender for that end voluntarily causes or attempts to cause any person death. Voluntarily causes or attempt to cause any person death, hurt or wrongful state, or fear of voluntarily causes fear of instant death or instant hurt or instant wrongful state. Then and there, then that will be treated as robbery. When extortion is robbery, that is, extortion is robbery if the offender, similarly, if the offender at the time of committing the extortion, is in presence of the person put in fear. It is very important. At the time of committing extortion, and in presence in the person who put in fear, a person who is put in fear. At the time of committing, in presence of the person put in fear, what it says, and commit the extortion. Presence of that person, commit the extortion by putting that person in fear of instant death or instant hurt or instant wrongful state to that person or to some person. Commit the extortion by putting in presence, he must be present there, and in presence of that person, commit the extortion by putting that person in fear of instant death or instant hurt or instant wrongful state. To whom instant hurt, instant wrongful state, instant death will be caused. To that person or to some other person, and by so putting in fear, induce the person so put in fear, then and there to deliver of the things extorted. Then and there the thing, deliver the property to so extorted, that will become robbery. So simply then and there, if then and there is not there, he will give subsequently, that will be treated as extortion. But so putting in fear, in presence of the person to who is put in fear, he commit the extortion. How? By putting that person in fear of death or instant hurt or instant harmful restraint. But in extortion, fear of instant hurt, instant death, instant harmful restraint, or putting any person in fear of any injury, that is in extortion. But here, if offender, by putting the person who is put in fear in his presence, commits extortion by putting that person in fear of instant death, instant wrongful restraint, instant hurt, and then and there, so putting that induces that person to deliver the property or the thing extorted, then that will be treated as robbery. You mark the difference. In the case of, it is sometimes creates confusion, you may forget also. What it says, if you read it 5-10 times, then you will be clear. Extortion is robbery if the offender at the time of committing the extortion, that means while committing the extortion, in the presence of the person put in fear, because extortion will be committed by putting a person in fear of any injury and thereby inducing that person to deliver any property to him or any other person, that will be extortion. So what it says, if extortion will be robbery if the offender, what is, commit at the time of committing extortion, is in the presence of the person put in fear, commits the extortion by putting the person in fear of instant death, instant hurt or instant wrongful restraint to that person or to some other person, to either the person who is put in fear either to that person or some other person. And by so putting in fear, it is very important. And by so putting in fear, induce the person so put in fear, then and there to deliver of the thing extorted. Then and there to think extorted. That will be treated. When person who is in put in fear and in presence of that person, the threatening is fear. Fear is only to cause death, this instant death or instant hurt or instant wrongful state to that person or some other person. And by putting so poor, so fear, so in fear, putting in fear, so fear. And by so putting in fear means what? By so putting that instant death, instant wrongful state or instant hurt. The offender induces that person to deliver the thing extorted then and there to him. That will be treated as robbery. The offender is said to be present if he is sufficiently near to put the other person in fear. Is near the who is put in fear. That offender is put in fear. Nearly near. Fear of instant death or of instant hurt or of instant wrongful state. The offender is shooting. Unless both must be. Offender is present and also the person who is in fear. In his presence, somebody is put in fear of instant death, instant wrongful state, and instant hurt, and thereby so putting in fear, deliver the property extorted then and there. Illustration: A holds Z down and fraudulently takes Z's money and jewelry from Z's clothes without Z's consent. Here, A has committed theft, and in order to committing of theft, has voluntarily caused wrongful restraint to Z. A has therefore committed robbery. A is passing on the road. A is going on a motorcycle. Somebody obstructed and pushed him, and thereby snatched the gold ring. Then that will be treated as robbery because that offender here at the time of committing in order to committing for that event was just hot, wrongful state. That is theft. Theft becomes robbery. So now A meets Z on the high road, shows a pistol and demands Z's purse. Z in consequence surrenders his purse. Here, A has extorted the purse from Z by putting him in fear of instant. A has extorted the purse by putting that person then and there. And being at the time of committing the extortion in his presence, in the presence of that person, A has therefore committed robbery. A meets Z and Z's child on the high road. It is sometimes this direct illustration comes as a problem in a question paper. A meets Z and Z's child on the high road. A takes the child and threatens to fling it down on a precipice, that is a projected stone, unless Z delivers his purse. Z in consequence delivers his purse. Here he has extorted the purse from Z by causing Z to be in fear of instant hurt to the child who is there present. He has therefore committed robbery on Z. A obtains property from Z by saying, "Your child is in the hands of my gang." A obtained property and will be put to death unless you send us 10,000 rupees. This is extortion and punishable as such, but it is not robbery because unless Z is put in fear of the instant death of his child, Z is put. A obtains property from Z by saying what? Your child is in the hands of my gang and you will be put to death unless you send 10,000 rupees. This will be only extortion, but not robbery because this is extortion and punishable as such, but it is not robbery. Why? Unless Z is put in fear of the instant death of his child. Dacoity. The case when 5 or more persons conjointly means dictionary meaning is to taken, jointly commits or attempts to commit robbery. Attempt to commit robbery also be treated as robbery. Sometimes we say, what is the 5 or more persons conjointly commit robbery? That is, no, you forget to mention attempt to commit robbery. When 5 or more persons conjointly commit robbery or attempt to commit robbery, or where the whole number of persons conjointly committing or attempt to commit robbery, whole number of persons, some persons are outside also, whole number of persons conjointly committing or attempt to commit robbery, and person present and aiding such commission or attempt amount to 5 or more. So even persons present and aiding such commission, aiding the commission of the robbery or attempting to commit a robbery, amount to 5 or more, every person so committing, attempting or aiding is said to commit. Every person so committing, attempting or aiding said to commit dokaiti. You should understand dokaiti. Sometimes we say 5 or more persons conjointly commit robbery, that is okay. No. But here you go through the definition. Where 5 or more persons, minimum 5, more persons may be there, conjointly commit robbery, that will dokaiti, or attempt to commit robbery, conjointly attempt to commit robbery, that is dokaiti. Or where the whole number of persons conjointly committing or attempt to commit robbery, whole number of persons conjointly committing or attempt to commit robbery. Some persons, 4 persons did it, persons present and aiding such commission or attempt amount to 5 or more, every person so committing, attempting, what? Or aiding is said to commit dokaiti. So first you should know what is dokaiti and what is robbery. In the next class we will discuss